They want to stay stagnant and not improve logically. This is typology committee after all. You are dealing with the people. So, but use my case to learn from it, okay? To learn something, because I failed. You can learn from my mistakes. What's good, you guys? So today I want to talk about every role element in classic Socionics. We did something like this for the vulnerable. Now it's time for the role. Because of course, superego is a very important block. And to be honest with you guys, if we want to do it correctly, we should also make a video about each superego block explained, because the role and the vulnerable, they work together in conjunction. So to make them separate, it can be a bit tricky, you know. So I'm gonna also make a video about just every superego block explained in a very easy to understand, accessible way for everyone. So with the role element, one of the things we have to understand is that it wants to dictate the norms of the element. Okay, so it does believe it knows better. When you have the TE role, and with the case of the ESC and EIE, I think a forgotten quality about those types is that they're quite competency-seeking types. TE role types, they are very rigid about the way things are done, the methods we use to make things work, how to do things. And ESC and EIE, a TE role type, they have a strong opinion. They have very strong opinions about how you should do those things, and they will be rigid about them. So they'll have a method of doing something, and they believe this is the way to do it. You know, anything else is unacceptable, is because that's the normative approach to the element. They're not creating any new methods. They're not doing anything creative with it. They're not really independent. They're just dictating how, you know, objectively maybe how this should be done, and the science behind the motherfucker, and like what makes sense based on objective criteria. So they're, at the end of the day, not creating shit on their own. So this is a very normative placement. Now we have any role. Here we have SCE and SLE. So it's someone who can be fixated, you know, to a big degree on fulfilling his potential, eliminating all weakness, getting stronger. This is something you see even with Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. He's probably one of the most stereotypical any role examples in this context. So you have those traits, but also, you know, they're very rigid about who they are. They're rigid about who other people are, even their internal content, who they are on the inside. Any role types have very one-dimensional outlook on this. They lack any nuance. So even their own understanding of themselves, it's often black and white. There's no nuance. And when there's contradictions, when people try to invade their personality, tell them who they are, the any role individual is not gonna tolerate it. They believe that's not how you should use this shit. We all judge people's value for our role element, meaning the SLE and SCE judges people's value and their worth through their capabilities, their potential abilities. So the role element is a very serious element. It does stand out in a person's psyche. It's not uncommon for people to look at the role and be like, wow, he's a base. Wow, that's his base. That's not his motherfucking base. That was never his base. Just because you see it, it's loud, it's outspoken, it has strong opinions, that doesn't suddenly make it an NE base or an SE base, right? Then we have a C role, right? Which I genuinely do believe, when it comes to WSS, many SE bases, typed SE bases, and many IEs who are actually typed as EIEs because like, oh, they value SE and they're so pushy and wow, they're actually genuinely SE role types. And you'd never see those traits really assigned to an IE or ILE in WSS. You'd never see that, right? An IE and ILE, they're just geeks. They're geeks who are funny, but they're Delta Quadra. They're not pushy. They're not willful, really. They're not try hard about that kind of shit. But because they're Delta Quadra, they don't value SE. Very bullshit take, of course. SE role is important, right? Very important. Guys, SE role is way more try hard and much more uptight than SE mobilizing. It's not even comparable. So SE role at the end of the day is someone who judges his own value and other people's value and worth through SE methods, through people's material qualities, through their kinetic energy, through their willpower, right? Through their determination, through their beauty, through their aesthetic. You have an idea as a caricature, you have someone who can try hard SE. They can try hard will. Oh yeah, willpower is the most important part in life. Without willpower, you can get anywhere. Willpower is everything. Willpower, and it doesn't have much nuance because it sounds like a commercial, but they they think strongly about this, right? This is how it should be. You can tell this is very normative approach to SC, to willpower, because it sounds like a commercial. Wow, if you just believe in yourself and you push hard enough and you're willful, you'll achieve your dreams. There's no complexity here. There's no ability to think deeply about SC matters. They don't want you to tell them how to dress, what's gonna look good. They don't. SLI adapts to the IE when it comes to aesthetics on what looks good. The IE doesn't get told what looks good, what they should dress. The IE tells the motherfucking SLI how to dress. If you value, you just think about it a lot. Well, motherfucker, guess what? Like, you think a lot about your role because your role is fucking mental. Your role is fucking conscious. So you, of course, you think a lot about it and you talk a lot about it. And mobilizing is unconscious. You're not supposed to think about that shit that much. So, of course, I feel very strongly about this because it's bullshit. The FE role, which you have a person who, and you have the LSE and LIE. Both are quite different with the FE role. The LIE obviously being more wanting to uphold. They both want to uphold a certain emotional atmosphere, right? They're not creating shit. This is not someone who can come and manipulate the emotional atmosphere or impose upon it. They can only adhere to it and uphold a certain way of what they believe it should be. There's normative. That's where the normative shit comes out. So don't deviate from that. In LIE, in a happy go, they're gonna be upbeat, right, positive, and they're gonna uphold that kind of expression, emotional expression. If you try to maybe downplay this emotional atmosphere, make it more depressive, they might not enjoy that. They might want to uphold it. They might even leave. That's not what they want to be around. They don't want to be around that shit. So, for the LSC, it's a bit different. They don't have this upbeat energy and trying to uphold this positive emotional expression, but rather they don't want people to spurg out, right? They don't like very excitable emotional outbursts or strong emotional displays. They prefer a bit more mild emotional expression, right? More cool, more calm. With NI role, you have people who are traditionalists, right? Stuck in time, things changing in time. They might kind of discredit those things. They might be more stubborn. They might be resistant to that idea. There is a lot of desire for predictability, right? Third time the charm. And also repetitiveness, right? So they don't like sudden changes of events and things happening. They don't like that shit. It stresses them out, makes them tweak. But also using time in a very effective way can be stressful. TI role is interesting because you often see in MBTI those types get typed as thinking types, logical types. Their rationale is usually because, wow, look at them, they care so much about logic. Wow, they're so stubborn. Wow, they must be a logical type. Being stubborn about logic doesn't make you logical. If anything, being so stubborn about logic makes you ethical. And I know it's mind-blown. It is completely mind-blown, and trust me, I know it's mind-blowing because I had the same problem. Well, if I give a shit so much about logic and I'm so rigid about logic, that must mean I'm a logical type. That's not how this works. If you are so confident in different element, you're not gonna be rigidly trying to adhere to the most basic logical principles. That's not how this works. You're gonna play with it. You're gonna manipulate it. You will create the norms. You will use it however you think you wanna use it. Right? But for the vulnerable element or the superego, for the role, misusing it, using it creatively is punishable by death, by decapitation. TI role is a person who wants to fulfill a certain duty in the system. So you put them in a hierarchy in a system, they want to uphold those duties, they want to uphold the position. They don't like when things are changing, their position is changing, they get demoted or they get promoted. It stresses them out. All of this also applies to systematic logic, to systems, right? Typology even. When they have this rigid idea of a framework that they uphold to this shit at all cost. And when there is changes to this can be extremely, extremely turbulent for the TI role. They might have a fucking mental breakdown because things are changing within the system, within this agreed logical framework that they adopted. Remember, the TI role doesn't create shit. they adopt their logic, same way as TR Polo. They do the same shit, right? Let's fucking destroy this concept once and for all. Let's decapitate this garbage. This idea that correlations are created by only TI, like people who believe in correlations, they're all TI bases, they're like logical types, ILEs, LIEs. I can assure you that is not true. And we have to really separate those different concepts. For example, people who create correlations, right? If you are the one changing the system, you believe, right? You're in a position where you are creating those correlations, right? Comparing different objects and creating correlations. That would mean, yes, okay, could make sense if you are a logical type, high TI type, for example. It's in the ego block, maybe it's your base, maybe it's your creative. Creative, not as much, but more base. If you're creating those correlations, that's fine, right? You can be a TI base and do that. Now, if you follow correlations, that doesn't suddenly mean you are a fucking LSI or a fucking LSC, LIE, ILE. That doesn't mean that shit at all. If anything, people who do want those strict logical principles and those correlations are usually or nearly always people with super ego TI. They're not logical types. They are not logical types because they want those rigid logical principles and they don't want anyone to deviate from that. So let's just destroy this notion once and for all because people don't understand shit. So ESIs are very rigid with correlations, then they will follow correlations. Fucking SEEs will follow correlations. IEs can follow correlations. EIIs can follow correlations rigidly. So remember, make this distinction. Super ego TI, like those ethical types, they take logic seriously. They can adhere to logical correlations and shit. Those people who create correlations, you can make an argument they are TI ego. They are logical types because they create that shit. Okay? It's not normative. They made that shit. And it is what made me mistype as an SLE. Dude, Jesus Christ, dude. That got me passionate. Because it's a fest. It's a fest. And people came to me and said, yo, bro, listen, you're not even a logical type. And I'm like, what the I'm a logical type because I care about TI, I care about this, I care about the rigidity. And like, you're not creating shit your own self, that's first of all, and you're only upholding and referring to normative TI. So you can be an ethical type and give a shit about logic. Wow, right? They want to stay stagnant and not improve logically. This is typology committee after all. You are dealing with those people. So but use my case to learn from it, okay? To learn something, because I failed. You can learn from my mistakes. So then we have SI role. Now, SI role, honestly, it was a pain in the ass. Can be skeptical of unexpected sensations, who, when it comes to the quality of space, they don't know how to organize that mother, or how to evoke certain comfortable situations in a way that is used creatively. So they can only do and manage the quality of space in a very objective fashion. Oh, well, this is how it's supposed to be. When it comes to eating food or being healthy and taking care of their bodies, their ideas are very rigid. Their ideas are very normative. Always relying on the objective information. Do you relate to the role element? How would you describe your own experience with your role element? Because I'm really curious about how this matches with your guys' experience. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Enough ranting. I'm out. Ciao. See you. And I'm bouncing.